call them on the way home. Hey, did you throw a load of laundry in? Did you do your homework? And they're teenage boys, so we know they eat 3 dinners. So usually I get, what are you bringing home?
Heather Sheatler, thank you so much for coming in and meeting with us today and sitting down for an interview.
Thanks for having me, Ashley.
Absolutely. With 4 controller candidates running, I think that the voters really want to get the opportunity to hear a little bit more in depth from you all because, short sound bites are good, but sometimes it's just nice really to understand who the people are, get a better glimpse into, their outlook on things and how they might run the office. And so this sit-down interview gives, I feel like, a better view of who all the candidates are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so let's get started. Tell me a little bit about your background. Tell me, have you always lived here?
I actually am born and raised in Washington County. I've lived most all of my life in McGuffey School District.
Okay.
So I grew up in that area. We briefly moved to South Strabane for a couple of years when we were looking for a house. So we had an apartment in South Strabane. But then we moved back to McGuffey School District. That's where my 2 teenage boys go to school, and that's where I went to school.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
What are their ages?
They will be 16 and 14 in the next 2 months.
Teenage years?
Teenage boys, yes. But yeah, I have lived here my whole life. Went to McGuffey and graduated there, and then went on to Penn Commercial. I wasn't sure whenever I graduated high school exactly what path I wanted to take. So my parents were like, you have to go somewhere. Because I was like, can I just take a semester off or decide what I want to do? And they were like, no, you have to go somewhere. So that's when I decided to go to Penn Commercial, last minute decision. Yeah. And I ended up getting an internship in the controller's office. I had no idea what the controller did, so I had to do some Googling before I went in for my interview. And I ended up getting the internship, and while I was there as an intern, I helped the payroll department out. I did kind of the front desk duties, but I also helped payroll, and a position opened up in the payroll department. And so I would, literally the last day to apply, I didn't know the position was open. And then the last day to apply, the payroll supervisor at the time came out and said, are you going to apply for the job? And she's like, I hear good things about you. You're really helping our department. And I was like, I didn't know you had one. So she's like, I think you should apply. So I went home, updated my resume, applied for it. And long story short, I obviously got it. Okay. So even before my internship was over, I started full-time in the payroll department. I started as a payroll specialist, and then through the years, I worked my way up to payroll supervisor, payroll manager, and I was that for probably about 10 years, and then a new controller came in. So for about 3 months, we didn't have a deputy controller in the controller's office, and I could see that the office was kind of not functioning the way it should. Things weren't getting done. And the controller at the time asked me if I would take the deputy role to help her out. So I did. I went out of my comfort zone, took the position, and kind of basically saved the office at that point, because I do have a good staff of employees that work for us, and I didn't want to see them fail. Right. So I stepped up to the plate, and I was able to run the office for the last 3 years. And then after the prior controller resigned, I was sworn in front of the president judge, Judge Gilman. He swore me in on October 1st, 2024, as controller, which I guess the official title was acting controller, but per county code, I had to sign things as the controller. If we didn't have a controller, we wouldn't be able to run a check run or pay our employees. You have to have a controller in place to do that. So that's why per county code, in the absence of the controller, the deputy controller is the controller. But in this case, since she stepped away from the office, I had to be sworn in order to be able to perform those duties as controller.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I've spent nearly my entire life in the controller's office.
Wow.
I like what I do. I like our department. We have a good department. We have good staff. And I have a good working relationship with a lot of the county offices. So, and that comes from just being there over the years. And yeah, I say that's my background.
So you were actually sitting in the office now, but you weren't elected into it. You just were there.
Correct.
And then got put as the controller.
Yes.
Okay.
Since I had taken the deputy role with the exit of the controller, that automatically, unless there's an appointment, the governor can come in and appoint somebody, but if they do not, I sit as the controller until the next election, which is this year, or until an appointment is made. So that's why obviously one hasn't been made, because the election is this year. So I don't foresee anything happening before the election, since it's so close.
Yeah, yeah. So now running for the office, now you've kind of stepped into the political arena, where probably in the past that you weren't at all. Would that be correct?
Yes. The first controller I had worked for the majority of my time in the controller's office had politics completely removed from the office. We were not exposed to it. We didn't deal with it, and it was actually wonderful. Because now that I'm in this role, I probably see what he dealt with, that I never, he didn't bring that to work. Gotcha. And I want to protect my employees from that as well. It's a little bit hard with the current environment that we have going on. The last 3 years was rough for our staff. So we kind of made a pact to stick together, and we made it through. So we have a good working relationship together, and now that I'm on this side of it, it is a little different than I'm used to. But again, not something that I can't handle.
Yeah. So what do you think of like the campaigning side of it? Door knocking and getting out there, shaking the hands, all that kind of thing.
It's exhausting. But I enjoy door knocking. The first time we did it, I was a little bit hesitant. Okay. Because who walks up to someone's door in 2025 and answers the door? But you would be surprised the number of doors we have open for us, and the amount of the response is good. And so usually at the end of the night, I feel good about what we're doing. Yeah. And when I go to like a cash bash or something, usually just one person coming up and saying, you know what, I see what you're doing, keep doing, what's right. That makes you feel good. So it is rewarding, even though it's exhausting. Yeah. I can't wait to maybe have a whole evening where I could just sit at my house and in peace. I'm looking forward to that. But the campaigning part itself it's exhausting, only because I think I'm the only one in the race that currently has a job, the job of the controller. So I work all day. So all of my door knocking, campaigning is done in the evenings or on the weekends. Gotcha. So that also is another reason why it's a little bit exhausting, because I'm working all day, not going home and, going out. But it'll be worth it in the end.
Yeah, yeah. And, that's a hard road, because you feel like that you're at a disadvantage, because now you feel like you can only knock doors at night, and I mean, luckily it's light out a little bit longer, but still it's hard.
Yeah, I do almost feel it is a disadvantage because I work, but I think getting that message out there that I'm currently working for the taxpayers, and this is why I'm doing this at all hours of the evening, because I'm working for you during the day. Yeah. So it's been well received by others and ones that open their doors. So good. Hopefully it pays off.
Good. Very good. All right. Tell me a little bit about the morale in the office. After everything happened with the prior controller and when you came in, what's it like in there right now?
Right now, it's the best it's been in the last 4 years. Okay. We had, the morale was pretty bad the past 3 years during the previous controller, to the point where we did lose a couple of our employees that just they couldn't handle it, and I don't expect them to do that. I even considered at one point, like, is this worth, it was a lot of mental strain on us day to day to have someone who had so many things going on outside of the office, and it affected us in the office. She wasn't there often, but when she was there, it was hard on us. So we did make a pact to stick together, and after I told them, I was just like, we have to do something. We have to make this work. And so we, obviously, with, we're able to get through the storm, and I think it's paid off, because right now we have 2 new employees that are super excited to be in the office.
That's
and
great.
Everyone that's there, we're kind of like a little family. So we all respect each other, we appreciate what we do for each other, and I think that's what got us through our dark times. But right now, the morale, as far as all of us together, we're kind of free from the drama, from the headaches that we had for years.
Yeah, so you've been through that storm. The county also went through a very significant IT hack in I think it was January of 24. And with controller's office being so vital, I mean, all the offices are. I can't like place one over the other, but the controller's office is a very big part of making sure, the money's going out, right? Mm-hmm. And everything is getting signed off on. And how did you handle that?
We went into the office, I believe it was a Thursday. It was in January, and we didn't have computer access. And at this time, if you know January, we do all of our processing in-house. So all of our 1099s, all of our W-2s, all of our paychecks, everything's done by my staff.
Okay.
And so we showed up one day without computer access. And I'm immediately concerned because we don't have our 1099s out the door yet, because it was like the 20, let's just say it was the 21st. And then we were notified that we weren't going to have computers later that day. So the next week we had regular payroll, we had elected officials to pay, and we had our pensioners to pay and get all of our tax forms out.
Wow.
So what we did, it was my staff, the whole staff stepped up during the day, but I didn't ask my union employees to stay after. I can't do that to them. But it was myself, Brittany Moscow, she was in payroll at the time, and Levi West, he was in payroll as well. He's now my current payroll manager. We literally stayed the entire weekend and worked. So they got us up and running Saturday with limited access on a computer. So we were able to get our 1099s done. We got all 3 payments made, but we worked around the clock Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to get it done. So we were able to get it, we ensured all the deadlines were met and everyone was paid. And quite honestly, that's the most important thing we do, is paying the employees. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were able to, it was a long weekend, but I knew what we had to do. And thankfully I had the knowledge before we had some of our systems in place to be able to do a lot of the work without a computer. It was hard not having access to like even an employee list. We keep all of that on our computers. Yeah. So we were hopping along with a crutch, and then they were able to get us up and running with limited, I think it was just 2 computers we had. They had to wipe them completely and put a couple programs on them. So what we did, we had to kind of like make it all over again, but we were able to get everything accomplished and completed and out the door.
Do you feel like that made your office stronger in a way? Like, have you made changes since then to kind of protect if something like that should happen again?
It did open our eyes to things, because quite honestly, I never thought I would go into work and not have access to my computer. Yeah. Because we kept everything on our computer. We have records, but we also save everything. So we kind of have done a process change where we now keep a list of all of our employees, all of our retirees, addresses, on paper, printed, just in case something like this would happen again. We would at least have a list to go from, because we didn't have anything the last time. So yeah, it was rough, but we were able to, we got through it. So
I don't think that's something that really was on anybody's bingo card.
No. No.
That the county was going to suffer a major...
No, I had no idea that would be something that we would actually face.
Yeah.
And it was months before we were fully operational again.
Wow.
I mean, we had, the ability to do certain things, but some of our software that we use to scan with, we weren't able to scan anything for a few months, so our paper was stacking up. And we're fully functional now. It did take a few months, but we're back to normal.
Yeah.
So.
And so, through that, it sounds like you had to kind of climb a mountain to make sure that things still got paid, and
Yes.
that you were still meeting all of your deadlines. Which kind of leads me into my next question is, I've heard different, rumors, things out there that things currently aren't being paid on time, or, there's some disarray going on in the office. And is it could you speak to that at all?
Yes. It's disappointing that people feel this is the avenue they need to take instead of contacting our office directly. We have processes in place for when we pay bills. We don't just pay a bill when it reaches our office. We have to make sure that the bill has been approved, that there's a contract, it's signed off on, it has to be coded. If you keep a bill in your office, I cannot process it. I don't know it exists. We have over 80,000 vendors. Yes, we have a large system. So there's no way I can say, oh, hey, we didn't get a bill from Joe Smith this week. We process thousands of invoices weekly, and we process them. Once they hit our office, we have a 30-day window to pay.
Okay.
We timestamp everything into our office. If a bill doesn't come directly to us, it can slow down the process. We get bills all the time that are past due, and the current office itself had it sitting on their desk for a month, or I don't know where it was before. But I do know of the specific incident that's being spoken of was the health insurance payments. And I have the documentation. We received the invoices in our office on February 4th. Payment was made February 21st to the insurance company. The check actually cleared the bank February 25th. I was contacted by someone in the administration on the 26th telling me that our account was going to get shut off. So I called the appropriate insurance broker, talked to him, gave him the proof of we cut the check, they were cash. He said, no worries, you guys are fine. Our account has always been in good standings. And then that kind of spiraled into them 2 months later still talking about the bills don't get paid. Our office had nothing. We processed within our 30-day time frame window. Since then, we did put the insurance on direct deposit to reduce the mail, but I cannot control when an invoice, if it's not in my office, I can't control when we can't process. And even after it reaches us, we have to code it, departments have to sign off on it, and we have to use the appropriate budget line item for it.
That's interesting. So when these other offices are getting a bill, you're saying that they're not necessarily coming directly to your office.
No.
They're coming maybe this other one, and that other one physically has to get it over to you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and we've tried to have offices change the address to us so the responsibility falls on us. I will take 100% ownership if the responsibility is my office. But if the bill doesn't come to my office, I cannot pay something that I don't know exists.
Okay. So everything that's coming to you, you talked a little bit about the process of making sure those bills are legitimate. Can you talk a little bit more in depth about how that looks?
Yes.
So something comes to you, let's just say, hey Heather, can you pay this $100 bill for something? What do you do to make sure that those are legitimate payments?
Well, I can tell you that we research it. My accounts payable staff, they don't pay anything without researching. We don't, it's part of our process. We make sure that we have a contract. If you have a contract, then we have to check the contract to make sure it falls within the guidelines. If there is not a contract, usually they'll bring it to me. I know last year we had a $200 bill we received. It was a tow bill. It had no information on it that it was related to Washington County except for that it came to us. I've not to this date paid that bill. I'm not going to pay a bill that you cannot determine that it had anything to do with anything in Washington County. No one was able to get me back up, and I reached out a couple of times, and to date I have not paid that bill.
Wow.
because obviously I understand it was only $200, but what's the next one? 2,000, 200,000. You have to watch every single penny that goes in and out of that office, and I've been able to do so, and honestly, I feel that I've been able to stop certain payments from going out that shouldn't be going out.
So that's really interesting, because I think most people would see the controller's office as, just maybe a paper pusher, where you're saying it's almost more of like a watchdog role?
Yes, absolutely. We are there. You can send me a bill, you can sign off and say, hey, pay this, but I have to make sure that it's a legit expense or before we make payment on it. So there is a process once it reaches my office. We don't just receive it and then put it on the check run. We have to receive it and make sure that it falls within the guidelines. If there is a contract, if there's not a contract, we have to get backup for it. Sometimes they have to go through meetings. We have to add the minutes with the backup for the paperwork. So it's not as easy as just paying a bill when it comes to your office. There is a whole entire process behind it. It's why we have 4 accounts payable staff. But some days 4 is not enough.
Really?
Yeah, we have a lot.
I'm shocked to hear that there's 80,000 different
vendors.
that you're dealing with.
Yeah, we just downsized them when we went with our new software in January, and we were able to pick the last 3 years. We were able to cut them down to 18,000, kind of to start over again. But we kept 18,000 of them active, and then now when a new one comes in, they just get a new number assigned to them.
Okay.
So.
Okay. When people think about government in general, especially everything going on with, Elon Musk and Doge and government waste and efficiency and all of that, what type of role do you see your office in something locally? Do you feel like you're in a position where you could really help the taxpayers to make sure that, things are running efficiently and that there isn't waste? And
Yes, absolutely. I 100% agree that we need a Doge in Washington County.
People love it.
Yes. You find these little things that you don't think about. They might have signed off on a contract 10 years ago and we're still paying that. Why are we still paying after 10 years?
Yeah.
I truly believe that our office, since we keep the original contracts as well, we can investigate and help bring to light maybe payments that we're paying that we don't know why we're paying them. We just have a contract for a professional service. What are these people actually doing for us?
Right.
And can we eliminate this?
Yeah.
So I absolutely think that our office would be able to be a vital role in developing something like that. And if I do get elected as controller, I do want to start that process of, and I think we need full transparency within the county, and the taxpayers need that. It's their money. It's not my money. I'm a taxpayer, but ultimately we need to be able to provide a checks and balance for them, and they need to know what their money is going towards and what it shouldn't be going towards.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people would really support that.
I would hope so, because it could save everybody.
Yeah, and it's not even to say that there's, maybe like something nefarious going on. It's just maybe you just didn't even realize, like you said, that this was signed maybe 10 years ago. And
it could have been prior administration could have put something into play.
Right.
And, it's doing your due diligence to, keep checking on things. We randomly will run across something that we're like, why do we have this? Do we have anything up to date on it? That's why we don't pay without current contracts. If we have something that has expired and we get a bill for it, we don't just pay that bill again. We make sure that it's valid and that they should have done the service. Because we have we've reached out to departments to say, hey, can you sign off on this bill? And the department will reach back out to us and say, they didn't do that work. We don't want to pay that bill. So we've had departments even say, hey, no, please don't pay that bill. Or if we get charged something that we shouldn't be charged, we'll hold on to the bill until they give us a credit. But yeah, it's a process. It's not just, a matter of going in and writing a check out.
Yeah. So, as controller, are there other boards that the controller sits on within the county?
Yes. The controller sits on the salary board, the prison board, and the retirement board.
Okay.
Yeah, the salary board meets if there are salary requests. They meet usually after the commissioners' meetings.
Okay.
Are
those public or no?
Yes.
Oh, so people can be there. All right.
Usually no one stays after, but
Yeah.
you could stay if you wanted to.
Okay.
The prison board meets usually once or twice a month. Sometimes we cancel the first, if there's something at the prison that needs addressed, we'll meet. If not, usually it's just once a month.
Okay.
And then the retirement board meets quarterly.
Okay.
So we have our investors come in and they give us a presentation on how our investments are doing.
Yeah, and on those boards, I guess each one's different, but is that typically like you and the commissioners?
Salary board is me and the commissioners.
Mm-hmm.
Prison board, there are 7. So it's the 3 commissioners, the controller, the sheriff, the DA, and typically it's the president judge.
Okay.
And then on retirement board, it are the 3 commissioners, the controller, and the treasurer.
Okay, all right. See, I think things like that are good for people to understand,
Mm-hmm.
you know, all that goes into the controller's office, because you guys are you guys are independently elected,
Yes.
and making sure of all of the different roles that actually comes along with the controller, I think is important for people to understand, because it is a lot.
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of county code. The book is quite large, and when we have a question, that's what we refer to because it's the law. We'll pull out the PA Constitution, usually online, but we will research it to make sure we're doing what's right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
So,
awesome.
and it is. I think often it gets forgotten that the row offices are independently elected. They are their own office. They are not overseen by any other department in the county. And I think that gets forgotten because that's obviously how you keep your checks and balances.
Yes. Yes.
So it is important that that office remains completely separate in the political atmosphere.
Yes. And, you know, this idea of home rule, where the offices get kind of absorbed,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I think the taxpayers spoke very clearly
Yes.
that that's not what they want to see. When the voters came out, they said, absolutely not. They want to see these offices remain independent, and, you know, for a number of reasons, but that ability to make sure that you are answering directly to the voters
Yes.
is a
Absolutely.
big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's something, it's not, I don't do that to be combative with anybody in the county. I'm doing that because I have a job to do for working for the taxpayers. I work for them and I owe them the answer at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that's why I will always be transparent with them and always make the right decision for the taxpayers.
That's great. All right, so tell me a little bit about maybe some of the improvements that you made in the office, and if you were to be elected, you know, maybe some of the other things that you'd like to see happen down the road.
Since I've been sworn in last October, which has only been 6 months.
Yes.
We've
Sorry,
been
did I
able.
say elected? Did I say what's into?
It's okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. I think it's been six or 7 months. We've caught up on all the audits. There was a time whenever audits were not being able to get completed yearly.
Okay.
Whether it was staffing, what it was, they were falling behind a couple of years. But with my new audit staff, both of them are great, and they've caught everything up. So they've done a wonderful job. We actually just had our audit exit today for the real estate bank account that was opened. And that'll be coming out shortly with the findings that we had in that audit exit. But I've been able to, catch up on audits. We've also upgraded our software. We just went live in January with a new software. So that has had its own headaches.
Okay.
Yes, we did have the first week of the year. when we went live, we didn't have a check run. And then whenever we went to run a check run, we ran into it was a nightmare. But we've slowly fixed all of those errors.
Okay.
So we're down to minimal errors on the check run. And they were just small errors, like we weren't able to run the check run. And it's like, that's not really a small error, but we'd have to call support, they would fix it. And we also are in the process of upgrading our timekeeping software. And we will be upgrading our pension software in the next year, I would say. But we also implemented in our elections department, our poll workers will be paid through a debit card now.
Really?
Yes.
That's interesting to us here at the party with our poll workers.
Yes. That'll be a change that is going to happen in the May primary.
Very nice.
So we wanted to speed the process of payments along. Sometimes we don't get those brought to our office for elections has to go comb through them, make sure everyone is getting paid what they should be paying, and then they get brought to our office, and then we have to process them. So it'll cut down, we're hoping it cuts it down to about a week, but you'll be given the debit card the day you show up to work the polls, and then the money will be loaded onto it automatically.
That's super interesting.
So, it'll cut down the mail. You won't have to wait on your check in the mail. So I think it'll be more cost efficient, but we did implement that. We would like our jurors to go on a process similar to that, but we're working on that with the courts right now. So that could be something that we're going to improve later too.
Yeah, that's super interesting.
Yeah, we're always looking ways to save paper, save checks. Checks are not cheap to buy. So we're looking for ways to reduce cost. So.
Do you feel like government itself is just antiquated in some of their ways that they do things, and there's lots of room for improvement? I don't know, that's something that we hear a lot from some of the other offices where things just feel antiquated.
And I'm guilty of this, so I try not to say this anymore. Well, we used to do it like this. That's not an answer. That's not an appropriate answer. I don't let my staff say, that's just how we do it. If there's a better way to do something, I'm all for implementing that. As long as it works at the end of the day and the checks and balances are there. We do things all the time. I lean on my staff to come to me and say, hey, I think this would be better. I think they're an important part of the day-to-day role in the office too, because they're the ones using the software, the systems. And I welcome them to bring any suggestions, and then we look into it, and if we can make it happen, we make it happen.
Yeah. How large is your staff currently?
I have 11.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a payroll department that has 2 employees. I have an accounts payable with 2 auditors, and then the controller and the deputy controller, and then I also have a accounts payable coordinator that kind of oversees the accounts payable department.
Okay. Do you feel that that's sufficient to do all the things you need to do? Do you feel like that's a good number for you?
I feel for me, yes, because I've been in the office long enough. So I feel I probably absorbed some of the things that might take someone new a little longer to do. I probably get it done a little faster. So I think for me it's enough staff. I mean, anyone would always welcome another employee, but I feel, to be fiscally responsible, we don't need another employee.
Okay.
If there were, say 11 new employees, you might need another one, but at this point, no, we do not.
Yeah, you feel like you're kind of a well-oiled machine.
And we always help each other. There's no task that's too good for anybody in our office. So we kind of pitch in, everyone helps everyone out. Payroll has busy times, accounts payable has busy times, and everybody has always been willing to pick up and help. I think that's what helps our office get along so well, is because we don't treat each other differently. We're all the same. So, I wouldn't ask my staff to do something that I wouldn't do myself. So sometimes that gets me too, because I'll be doing something I'm like, I could have just given this to somebody else. But I just try to be in the day-to-day workings of the office, so then I know what's going on. You can't just come to work once a month and expect to know what the office is doing, because it's such an important role in the county that it's important that there is a leader there that is present.
Yeah. When you say coming to the office every day. I think some people might be surprised to know that, like, some of the elected officials maybe don't come to the office, or maybe in the past, you know, maybe some of your predecessors, maybe they weren't in the office. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've worked under 2 different controllers. One was present all the time, one was not. I can tell you that I enjoyed working for the one that was there, because if you had a question, you could ask.
Yeah.
The one that was not present was just not as, it's unfortunate for the taxpayers that they pay for someone who doesn't show up to work.
Yeah.
And it's such a vital role that you, I can't imagine actually taking, say, just a week and not going in the office.
Yeah.
I think my phone would be like blowing up with text messages and calls with questions, but unfortunately in the county we do have a climate. We have some really good elected officials that show up every single day, and then we have ones that we just don't see as much. So I can only be in control of myself, and that's why I, if elected, will continue to show up as I have been doing.
See that? I mean, I'm happy to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I have to earn my paycheck. You know, I'm not just entitled to something just because I was elected.
Right.
You know, you have a service to do for the taxpayers, and I'm willing to do that for them.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that that's something that means a taxpayer, I would want to elect somebody that was going to show up.
Yeah. When I talk to people, and like if this idea would ever come up, and they kind of catch wind that maybe some of them necessarily aren't there, and like you can see their mind like, wait a minute, so you don't have to come to work. But it seems like in the office of controller, at least, that's really not an option.
No.
You've got to be there.
The controller role is a full-time job, and maybe because I worked for a controller that had been there every single day, where you know, I learned from that, but I can't imagine being absent from that office and not seeing what's going on day to day.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Not that I don't, you know, trust my staff, and they're not fully capable of functioning without me, but as a boss, I need to show up and be there for them. Yeah. And give them the support they need.
You talked about how you have some union employees and some. Can you distinguish the makeup of how many are union and how many are not?
I have 4 out of my 11 employees are union. The rest are salaried.
Okay. All right. So that's a good distinction. You know, important for people to understand too. Tell me about, if you win, what are some of your top priorities? You know, looking into would be your first term, but you know.
Sure. If I win, I want to, like we had talked previously about bringing some sort of Doge to Washington County. I want to be more transparent with the taxpayers. You can come to my office anytime and ask to see an audit. You know, that's all public knowledge.
Really?
Yeah, they're public documents. You could come and say, hey, I want to see the jail audit from 2021, and I would let you see a copy of it. We just don't have people that show up and ask. Yeah, but all of that is available upon request. We would like you to call ahead before you just show up and ask for 22 audits from the past 5 years, but it is public knowledge. Once an audit is processed and filed, the public has access to see it. But I think maybe the controller's office could do a little bit better with presenting that. Maybe we could put them on the website, or, you know, just getting it out there, because a lot of people don't have time. Our hours are 9 to 4:30.
Yeah.
If you work, you're not making that. So I think we could be a little bit better, and I would want to maybe do that where more people could have access to them than just coming and stopping into the office.
Yeah, I think that would be fabulous.
Yeah.
Tell people, where is your office?
We are in the Crossroads Building, 95 West Willow Street, and we're on the 4th floor. It's Suite 430.
Okay.
We're currently in with it's the controller's office, the finance department, and the purchasing department.
Okay.
We're all in one office.
Okay.
So
One
when
big happy family?
Yes, when you come to our office, there's multiple people coming from multiple different offices, but we are located there. We moved last October from the old building, so we're in the new one now.
Okay. So tell me your hours one more time.
We are 9 to 4:30, Monday through Friday.
Okay. All right. When you're out and you're campaigning and you're talking with people, are you getting any really interesting questions or, things that maybe you hadn't thought about before for your office? Anything like that?
We do get a lot of questions about, what's going on up there. We read the paper. And I can only speak on what's in my office. So usually, I'll let them know just because the title is controller, we don't control everything for the county. So I try to give them a little bit a rundown of the process of how it actually works. Sometimes people will ask, they'll tell you, listen to a story of, they can't get help anywhere, they need this. So usually I'll just guide them to the department that they need to contact or reach out to. But yeah, I haven't had too many people with bad feedback. It's all been pretty good, and we've been able to answer everyone's questions thus far.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Our biggest thing is, maybe one of our concerns is, I've knocked on some doors and the door's open and I'm being told that one of our candidates running for controller is saying that our office is in disarray, we're not paying bills. I find that disheartening because, one, that's false, and two, if you think there's an issue with my office, I think you should come to me directly. I don't think you should go through a third party to get information that's not 100% true. I like to get the information from the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
So I don't like that I'm being told that on the campaign trail. It's unfortunate because, I'm not going to go out and badmouth something is anyone that's running. Yeah. I'm not doing that when I'm door knocking, so I expect the same out of the others.
Yeah.
And it's disheartening that it's happening.
Well, and I think that that's another reason why doing an interview like this is important, because the voters now can hear from you directly, and they can decide, do we feel like she's telling the truth in this matter, or do we not have a good feeling about her? I think a sit-down interview gives people a greater glimpse into you, and how you answer questions, and how do you explain things, and
with me, I'm kind of, what you see is what you get, and if anyone questions anything, I will provide whatever proof they need. I'm very much, I can put it in black and white, I'm going to give it to you in black and white. So I like there to be truth out there, and unfortunately sometimes in the political world the truth doesn't matter, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, and it's hard for voters to know. It's hard for them to wade through everything and to discern what's true and what's not.
Right.
Because once you enter the political arena, there is so much that can be said, and somewhere in the middle is the truth, and it's hard for the voters to find where that line is sometimes.
Yeah, because you could say anything you wanted to say, but there are processes, there's procedures in place, and if you don't know those, you're not speaking to, what the truth actually is.
Yeah.
And I ask or welcome anyone to call me with questions, email me, come to my office. It's unfortunate that doesn't always happen right now.
Yeah.
They kind of go with just what they've heard, rumors or whatever, but I would, if I had an issue with someone, I would go to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
That's great, though, that at least to know that they can come to your office and that they can ask questions about, I didn't know that all of those audits were, public record. That's great.
Yep. Yeah, everything, mostly, I was going to say everything that we have is pretty much audits. Like, I can't provide you with a social security number if you came to my office. That's obviously not public knowledge, but an audit is definitely something that you could come and request, whichever one you wanted, whatever year, and we provide a copy of it for you.
Yeah, we were just talking just the other day with someone, and they were talking about financial donations into candidates, and where's people their funding, where is that coming from, and they didn't know that you could go to the elections office and ask to see those financials and just look. And
okay.
I think just educating people that you do actually have a lot of ability to kind of dig into some of these issues if you want to.
Yeah.
You don't have to be in the dark necessarily about
Because
a lot of this.
Obviously, we're funded by taxpayer dollars, so almost everything we do is available to the taxpayers.
Yeah.
Whether that's going to the elections office, coming to my office, going to the tax office. It's something, we're a resource for the taxpayers to come to, and we should be welcoming of that.
Yeah.
And open to it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Tell me about how this has been on your family, running for office, having 2 teenage boys in the house with your husband. I mean, you're probably gone. It's like, honey, I threw it in the crock pot before I left.
Yes. I'm super thankful that my boys are the ages that they are right now. If they were any younger, I don't think I could do it, because you do miss a lot.
You do.
There's a lot of nights when I call them on the way home, hey, did you throw a load of laundry in? Did you do your homework? And they're teenage boys, so we know they eat 3 dinners. So usually I get, what are you bringing home?
Really?
And I'm like, what did you eat? Nothing. And I know you had something to eat. So that's probably my biggest thing now is I try to, I'll make a ham or something, throw it in the fridge so they can like warm it up or eat it on sandwiches. I try to have stuff available for them because I'm not there. And my husband does work out of town. He's away 5 days of the week. So he is only home 2 days. And so during those 2 days, I've been having him run around, put signs up for me. So I think he's getting tired too. But we try to utilize the best, our time if we are at home, which is rare that we're all 4 at home together. I'll have my kids in the living room putting together signs as I'm doing something else. So they're ready for it to be over as well. But they've been troopers. I've kept them sheltered from the whole political side of it though, because that's not something they need to be involved in, and it's not something they should worry themselves with.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, overall it's been fine. So.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know that people realize kind of the toll it takes on the whole family.
Yes, and it does take a toll. Probably more so they probably don't show me. They're also at the age where they don't want their parents around. They want to talk to their friends or do whatever they want to do. But I do know sometimes my oldest one, who is my quiet one, I'll get home and he'll come and like talk my ear off, and I'm like, oh my goodness, he must feel like talking to me today. So it has had some moments that like, oh, okay, this is nice, because normally on a day-to-day basis that doesn't happen if I'm home every day.
Yeah.
So it's hard when I leave for work and I don't get home until 9:30 at night.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping in the end it pays off.
Yeah.
So.
What maybe didn't we talk about that should we talk about? Is there anything that maybe I missed?
I feel like we've talked about a lot.
We have talked about a lot.
I feel like I probably talked too much. No, I think we covered everything that I'd want to cover.
What do you want the voters to remember about you when they go to vote?
I want the voters to remember that I will always be the fiscal watchdog for them, and I will always do the right thing for the taxpayers.
I think that's important, especially in your position.
Yes, we definitely need someone who's willing to see both sides of something and make the right decision based on what's right.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
Okay, ready for the lightning round?
Sure.
I tell people this is the money makers where the votes are right here. Country or rock and roll?
Country.
No hesitation there from a McGuffey girl?
Nope.
Favorite founding father?
Oh my goodness. George Washington, even though We'll just say.
He was numero uno.
Yeah, I feel like he's the best.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Favorite local restaurant?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
We have Roland's. It's in Washington, but I feel like it's local to me.
Yeah.
That's probably one of my favorites.
Yeah. Anything special there you like?
Their Alfredo.
Yeah. I'm a sucker for a good Alfredo.
Mm-hmm.
Sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Okay. No miss morning ritual. Every day. Gotta do this.
Brush my teeth.
Not coming to the office with that breath.
Right.
All right, last question. Favorite book?
I would probably say, this is probably not a popular answer, but I would honestly say the Bible. I've not been able to read the whole Bible, but growing up I used to go to church a lot with my grandparents, so it's like a good memory. So once in a while I'll pick it up and read a little bit more. So I'd say that's probably my favorite book.
Amen. It's good.
Yeah.
Keeps you anchored.
Yes, keeps you. It helps doing the right thing whenever you read that, because then you know you're doing it for the right thing, for the right reasons.
Absolutely. Heather Sheatler, thank you so much for coming in and talking with us today.
Thanks for having me.